So in this first video, we're going to explore everything that is related to symptoms or taps on the shoulder that you may actually be going through an awakening. First, let's ask what is an awakening, or what some call it. I call it an awakening to our human evolution. I call it human evolution. Some people call it a spiritual awakening. Some people call it awakening to a higher consciousness. You might even call it enlightenment. So again, I like to call it human evolution. I also liken it to us as humanity upgrading the operating system. So hear me out, follow me along, follow along with me if you would. So if you liken ourselves to a computer system or an operating system, I would suggest that we have maybe been moving through an upgrade of our operating system in the last 2 to 3 years. So things that may have we may have perceived, ways in which we were living, things that we were doing and how we were being, have gone through a bit of a change. If you are human and living on this planet, you have seen it. So what if, as our world is going through a change, we are also going through a change as well? What if we are upgrading our operating system? So maybe the way that we moved in the world, maybe the way that we were being prior to 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, whenever it is that you started to wake up, has changed. So what we need to do when you upgrade an operating system, much like a computer or a phone, the first things that we need to do are unpack the programs, the thoughts, the feelings, the patterns, the emotions that maybe are not serving us anymore. So I like to call that our backpack. So we have a backpack of energy, we have a backpack of trauma, we have a backpack of experiences and patterns and ways we've been in the world that aren't necessarily serving us any longer. In the last 3 years, I'm sure I'm not alone, but many of us have shifted the way that we are seeing the world. We have maybe shifted the way that we're consuming media. We have shifted the way that what we're showing up to do in the world as far as a career. There has been so much change in the last 3 years that we've had no choice but to change. So what do we need to do to upgrade our operating system in order to thrive in this new reality that doesn't actually have the same rules or ways of being as it did perhaps 5 or 10 years ago? I know for myself, 5 or 10 years ago, I was a digital marketer, mom of 2, still a mom of 2, going about my world in a very different way than it is now. I know that what has changed, or what I've unpacked, has to do with what I feel that I have control over in my life. So one of the things that I would say I've unpacked is my feeling that I don't have control over my health. I was somebody who was sick often. I often gave my power over to, an incoming headache, or a feeling of nausea, or a feeling of fatigue. And after going through my awakening in the last 3.5 years, I am completely empowered as it relates to my health and my ability to clear up or change the frequency of how I'm feeling. And that has been proven. Therefore, the old way that I'm operated in the world, where as soon as I got a headache, I would go and take an Advil, or as soon as I got a sinus infection, I would immediately start taking medicine. Now, with the new operating system that I've unpacked from before, I now will look to myself, and I will look to what my body's trying to tell me when the headache is there. So this is just one small example of how I have changed how I am being in the world. So I've upgraded my operating system, or shifted it, however you want to look at it. And I am now more in control of not only those physical manifestations of illness, but also my thoughts and feelings and emotions and my way of being and showing up in the world. So The process of awakening is not for the faint of heart, my friends. So if you are going through an awakening, I'm going to give you some of the phases, some of the things that you may wish to look at further and explore as far as what's really, really happening to you, okay? So I'm going to give you some of the symptoms or the things that you may look to that may be happening in your life that are an indication that you are going through an upgrade of your operating system and or an awakening. So what does an awakening look like? What are some of the symptoms? Number one, major life changes. Don't really know anybody who's gone through any major life changes in the last 3 years, do you? So, changes in your relationships, changes in your career, changes in your dynamics with your family members, changes in your romantic partnerships, changes in your friendships, changes in just about everything that's happening in the world in the last 3 years. So yeah, changes. So major life changes, that is a really big indication that you may be moving through an awakening. Synchronicities. So once we start to, let's say, accept that things are changing in the world around us, you actually may start observing things differently in the world. So I liken this to be, well, I guess the opposite of awaken is asleep. So the way that I was prior to my awakening 3.5 years ago, I would consider myself pretty much asleep. So asleep to anything that was not right in my face as far as a synchronicity or an important event or an important meeting. I would pretty much just assume that it was all by chance, okay? So once I started to awaken those synchronicities or those, synchronistic meetings or the songs that you may be hearing on the radio or number sequences that you may be seeing over and over and again, may be getting more and more and more. So I would liken that to a bit of a tap on the shoulder to your higher self or your unconscious self or your ego self, however you want to call it, kind of just gently tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, might want to look and listen to this. Maybe there's something more to this. Maybe everything isn't just by chance. So if you are experiencing an increase in events or happenings in your daily life, you might want to start to actually stop and ponder and look and listen and maybe start to see where those synchronicities relate to each other. Another synchronistic series of events that would happen to me when I started to wake up to this understanding that the world wasn't what I understood it to be for the first 43 years of my life, included dreams that kind of had premonitions, dreams that my daughter would have that made sense in the messages that I was receiving. Many more experiences of deja vu or feelings of understanding a concept differently than you would have understood it before. So watch for those synchronicities. They may come in all sorts of different ways, in songs playing on the radio just at a certain time with a specific message. Just watch out for those synchronicities. They are a really big indication that you are starting to wake up to the higher reality around you, or the different levels of reality around you. So that leads me to my next point, which is questioning the world around you and questioning your role in it or your purpose. So a lot of times people start to sort of get apathetic a little bit to the life that they'd been living. Why am I asking questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? Why is all of this chaos happening around me? What is happening in the world? Is the world ending? These are really big questions that tend to come up when you are starting to go through an awakening. So start to listen, start to really take a look at more of how the world feels around you compared to the way that it did before. Because if you are going through that awakening, and I'm sure if you're listening to this video still, it is likely that you will be having some sort of bigger questions, questioning the world around you, questioning your role in the world, questioning why you're here, looking for your soul's purpose. These are all very good indications that you are starting to go through an awakening. Another feeling that you might look to is a feeling of, a feeling of feeling isolated or alone. Now, a lot of folks have felt these kinds of feelings most of their life. So maybe when they're shifting into an awakening at this point, maybe they're feeling less isolated and alone as they start to sort of explore the larger world around them. But for many who, like me, I would not have considered myself an awakened soul or awakened human prior to 4 years ago, going through some shifts and changes and experiencing reality differently than you did before, and understanding that there is more than what my naked eye could see, and exploring the fact that I had a pendulum now that was flying around and that I could potentially be speaking to spirits. That was a lot for me. That really was isolating and made me feel very much alone and crazy. So if you are moving through feelings of isolation, seeing things, like I said, in the media before, where you would have had an impression of that before and now it's changing, you're starting to see through veils of illusion, you're starting to question things, this can all be very isolating, especially if you don't have anyone close to you that is going through the same things. So if you are starting to feel isolated and alone, first of all, you're not alone. There are many of us out there that have a different view of reality and who are waking up at the same time. So just notice if you really are feeling those feelings, that you are not alone. And it is definitely an indication that you may be waking up to a higher reality for yourself. And this is a beautiful thing. So you will also be moving through shifting perspectives. So as you move through the stages of awakening, your awareness of the world around you, the systems around you, your place in the world will all change. Things that were important to you at one point may start to shift over time, or maybe even quite abruptly. So if you have a period of time that you're starting to question the beliefs that you've held all your life, maybe they're religious beliefs, maybe they are your perspectives of society and how it works. Maybe you're starting to, turn away from mainstream media and starting to look at other types of alternative medias or channels like this one, to start discerning your reality differently than maybe you would have before. This is definitely an indication that there is a tap on your shoulder to start to take a look and start to discern your own truth. So this is a really big shift that comes with awakening, is to start to trust your own truth. So many of us, as we're going through this, really have to move through the unpacking of that lack of trust in ourselves, all right? So one of the things that we do as we are upgrading our operating system is start to unpack those old belief systems that, our truth isn't important, and that it is only that of the media or governments or the way that we were raised or our religions or our educational systems. This is a lot to unpack as we're sort of waking up to our larger potential of who we really are. So be very, very mindful of shifting perspectives, because that is definitely an indication that you are waking up. And then last but not least, the lovely fatigue, body aches, and unexplained illnesses. Yes, my friends, awakening comes with a bit of a price on the physical body. So what's happening when we're waking up is we're actually, as we're unpacking all of the old thoughts, feelings, patterns, triggers, emotions, or viewpoints, things that we were very stuck in, we are actually also upgrading that operating system. So once some of those, even those old stuck emotions that you may start now unpacking and releasing, like fear, for example, or anger, or programs or understandings of the world that were really heavy and dense, as you start to remove them, you actually start to upgrade your systems. We are actually also moving through an upgrade collectively on the planet. Again, if you're human and you've been living on this planet for the last 2 years, you will have noticed that things are a little bit different. So as this is happening, we are energetically, as human beings, experiencing this as well. So this can cause fatigue, body aches, unexplained illnesses, and they are often a sign that you are shifting and moving through change. You may be having skin irritations. A lot of people that I know are having skin irritations. You may be experiencing, like I said, extreme fatigue that comes out of nowhere. So when you are shifting, it's almost like you are coming out of one conscious state and shifting into another. And that itself can be very exhausting. It's exhausting to, if you were, let's say, on autopilot before, the way that I would describe myself, not being aware of anything outside of my physical body, and to kind of wake up to the fact that I was an energetic being living in a human body. All of a sudden now we have to manage our energetic bodies, our emotional bodies, our spiritual bodies. It's a lot to incorporate and learn and shift into. So if you are going through these kind of unexplained illnesses, you know, skin irritations, migraines, you know, the certain illness that we've been dealing with for the last 2 years, a lot of that is our body's way of purging toxins, purging old frequencies and energies. Everything is shifting. Everything is shifting both in our world, in our collective consciousness, as well as within ourselves. So the first step is to notice, observe, pay attention, give yourself that time and space if you are having any of these symptoms. So that, my friends, is the beginning of our journey here. I am going to keep exploring the signs and symptoms of waking up, what it means to you, and I'm going to give you as many resources as I could possibly give you to help to understand how to move through it, where you can go to get help, other resources, what you should be looking to help you unpack and remove some of the old traumas and triggers and patterns, and how you can joyfully, with ease and grace, step into this next version of you with a little less of the feeling crazy. I can't promise you there will be days, but I will do my best to guide you through these stages. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. And make sure you share this video, like, subscribe, and come back for more. You can see me over on Instagram at Awaken Inspired Alicia. I've got a private Facebook group also on Facebook called Awaken Inspired, and awakeninspired.com, awake-and-inspired.com for more resources, more videos, and all the support that you need. We'll see you next time.